တို့နဲ့လက်တွေ့ကိုပေါင်းစားပြီးတော့ရတာမျိုးစုံလေးပြရတယ်ဆိုတော့ပုံမူပြီးအစိတ်ဝင်စားတယ်ကောင်းပါတယ်ဒီလိုတချို့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များစဉ်းစားမှုအရှင်းမရှိပဲနဲ့တစ်ချိန်လုံးအာယုဒီစိတ်ရောက်အောင်လို့မှတ်ပါအဲ့ဒီမှတ်ရတဲ့အာရုံလည်းပဲဉာဏ်နဲ့ရောက်လာအောင်လို့အတင်းလူယူတယ်လို့တက်ခိုက်တင်းပိုက်ယူတယ်လို့ပါမကြည့်နိုင်ကြဘူးဒီတဲ့ဘုံပုံဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့သူကတမင်္ဂလာတွေးခေါ်ပြီးတော့ယူမှဉာဏ်နဲ့ဒီထုံးကြတယ်အဲ့ဒါလည်းပဲစာရင်းနဲ့တက်ပြီးပေါင်းစားပြီးတော့သုံးတာလည်းလို့ရှိရင်စစ်စစ်လည်းလို့ရှိရင်ဒါတော့မှမှားကိုယ်တိုင်းအာယုံဒီကိုတစ်ချိန်လို့ရောက်ရှိပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒီအာယုံရရှိမှုညာလို့ပါဉာဏ်ပိုင်းမဟုတ်သေးပါဘူးသမာဓိပိုင်းလည်းရှိပါသေးတယ်သူ့ပိုင်းနဲ့သူပဲခွဲခြားပြီးတော့နားလည်ရပါသမာဓိပိုင်းမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ရှိရအောင်မှာစိတ်ကလေးစုဆက်ပြီးတော့စုစီဖြစ်သွားတယ်ဒါတော့လိုပါတယ်ဒီရတယ်ဘာမှမဟုတ်ဘူးဘာကြီးဖြစ်လာလို့ရှိရင်လုံးညာဖြစ်လာအဲ့ဒီသဘောတရားလေးခွဲခြားပြီးတော့ဒီနားလည်ထားလိုက်ပါတယ်
Sayadaw says, today also he is trying to explain about the meaning of Satipatthana. Each and every day when you are listening about the same thing again and again, you might have boring feeling. As you are taking same bread many days without changing it. But Sayadaw says, the wheat flour is same, but you can make different bread and different cakes with that wheat flour, and you can get different taste from them. So in the same way, although the explanation may be the same, and the explanation is going according to the Satipatthana word, but there are some change of meaning in Satipatthana word. So when you will have different types of bread with same flour, you may not have any type of disgusting feeling when you take the varieties of bread. In the same way, Sayadaw also thinks you may not have any kind of uneasiness to listen different meanings of Satipatthana, although the word is the same. And it is necessary to understand the meaning in different ways, because without having proper understanding according to the textual explanation as well as practical explanation, practical experience, it is difficult to understand the real meaning of the word as well as the real sense of the practice. So that is why Sayadaw is trying to explain the same thing again and again in different sphere, different ways. And when he is trying to explain the meaning of Satipatthana, that the Satipatthana word has got the meaning to get the object when the yogis are practicing Satipatthana way of practice, they need to get the object rushing forwards to the object. Without having that power of rushing forwardness of the observing power, the meditators or the yogis couldn't get the object clearly and precisely. And Sayadaw also explained that the yogis need to drive their observing power towards the object, acting quickly without having any thought in it, and they need to capture the object immediately or suddenly or quickly as much as possible, then only they will get the object clearly and precisely. But these explanation seems that some of the yogis couldn't satisfied with that, because there isn't any kind of thinking process in it. So they are feeling that the practice is not actually getting progress without thinking. And those who are fond of thinking and familiar with thinking, if one Sayadaw is explaining not to think and try to drive away your mind or observing power towards the object without having any thought, the dissatisfaction could be there. So Sayadaw says, although it seems dissatisfactory, but what you are doing at the beginning is to develop the concentration. To develop the concentration, at first it is necessary to have the forceful concentrative mental powers. Without having any concentration, you cannot have any understanding in your practice. So it is not necessary to try to understand from the beginning something. It is necessary to try to get the concentration at first, then you will gain the understanding through the well-concentrated mind. Whatever Sayadaw has explained until now are those aspects which concern only with the concentration. That is why he is forcefully trying to explain you shouldn't think anyway when you are trying to get the object in your practice. Because understanding or the knowledge is different and the concentration is different. They are not the same. Without having concentration, there couldn't be any kind of real knowledge and real understanding in your practice. So we need to divide or discriminate these two things apart.
ဝိရိယရဲ့စတိရဲ့သမာဓိရဲ့ဒီလိုမျိုးပါအဲဒီလိုမျိုးကသမာဓိခန္ဓာကိုခေါ်ပါတယ်သမာဓိလို့လည်းရိုးရိုးပြောနိုင်ပါတယ်။ဉာဏ်ရှင်လည်းစောင့်ချတယ်ဒီလိုပြော။သမာဓိခန္ဓာခေါ်တဲ့သမာဓိပိုင်းသမထပိုင်းကိုရှိပါတယ်။
Sayadaw says there are three types of defilements in our life. The defilement of transgression, obsessive defilement, and the defilement of latent tendency. And these defilements are all the time there in our life. Without removing the power of those defilements, there won't be any good training in our practice. That's why as the yogis, they have to observe the precept. Through observing the precept, they can overcome the defilement of transgression, because precepts are there to have control in physical and verbal unwholesome activities. Since you have observed the precepts, those unwholesome states of physical and verbal activities are subsided. So therefore, the training of precept is fruitful to eradicate the defilement of transgression. But still there are another two types of defilements which couldn't be eradicated by those precepts. The obsessive defilements, which lie all the time in our mind, could be eradicated only by the concentrated mind, well-concentrated mind. To drive away those obsessive defilements, that's what we are trying to do here to develop the concentration. Through the development of the concentration, you can drive away the obsessive defilements. And still there are smooth type of defilements, sleeping type of defilements, hidden defilements, which is called the latent defilement or dormant defilements. Those defilements couldn't be eradicated only having the concentration. You need to develop understanding of wisdom. Through wisdom only, the latent defilement or dormant defilement could be eradicated, could be subsided. If not, it is impossible to get rid of those defilements. That's why Sayadaw is giving more preference to the concentration at first to drive away the obsessive defilements. Now the yogis who are trying to have well-concentrated mind, observing each and every moment whatever objects may arise during their practice, to possess the strong, powerful concentration to drive away those obsessive defilements. Without overcoming those defilements, wisdom couldn't be developed. And to have well-developed concentration, the yogis are needed to possess 3 mental forces, such as effort, mindfulness or observing power, and the concentration itself. Without having these 3 types of forceful mental forces, in the beginning process of practice, concentration couldn't be possessed. Therefore, Sayadaw is trying to explain how we need to develop the concentration in proper way. To develop the concentration, effort, observing power, concentration itself necessary to possess in each and every noting moment. And to have that type of forceful power in our practice or in your practice, so the mindfulness plays a great part. That's why Sayadaw concerns about to explain the meaning of Satipatthana in correct way. So therefore, while you are trying to develop observing power during that period, it is not necessary to have any kind of thought in your practice.
ဝိသုဒ္ဓိအစဉ်နဲ့ပြောမယ်ဆိုရင်သတိဆောင်လေးနဲ့ဒီလမှာပြည့်ပြည့်စင်ကြဲနေတာศีလဝိသုဒ္ဓိဒီပိုင်းပဲဆိုတော့ပါဒီမှာတစ်ဆင့်ဆက်ပြီးတော့စိတ်တဝိသုဒ္ဓိဖြစ်အောင်လုပ်ရပါတယ်စိတ်တဝိသုဒ္ဓိဆိုတာကမိချန္ဒအစရှိတဲ့အနောက်ရှိဟန်တားတွေပေါ့လေဒါကြီးကင်းအောင်စိတ်ကလေးတွေတန်ရှင်းအောင်စိတ်ရတန်ရှင်းမှုပြရတာဒုတိယပိုင်းဉာဏ်ပိုင်းမရောက်သေးပါဘူးမရောက်သေးပဲနဲ့တွေးခေါ်တဲ့ဉာဏ်လည်းပဲတကယ်ဘာဝနာဉာဏ်မဟုတ်ပါဘူးဒီဝရဏတရားတွေကကင်းအောင်လို့စိတ်တန်ရှင်းမှုအတွက်ပထမဆုံးပြောနေတယ်အဲ့ဒီအစဉ်နဲ့ပြောမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းဉာဏ်ပိုင်းဆိုင်ဘာမှမဟုတ်သေးဘူးအတားထားလိုက်အောင်ပေါ့ဒီจิตဝိသုဒ္ဓိခေါ်တဲ့သမာဓိပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာဒါလေးပဲသိစေရမှာပြီးတော့လည်းဘာဝနာဆိုတဲ့သဘောကိုလည်းနားလည်ထားပါတယ်ဘာဝနာဆိုတာကစိတ်ရဲ့တည်ငြိမ်မှုကိုဖြစ်စေတာအကောင်းလုပ်တာ ਨੇ အတိပညာဖြစ်စေတာအကောင်းလုပ်တာဘာဝနာခေါ်တာပဲခုဒီပိုင်းကသမာဓိခန္ဓာခေါ်တဲ့စိတ်ရဲ့စင်ကြယ်မှုစိတ်ရဲ့ဆူဆီးမှုပေါ့လေဖြစ်စေတယ်အကောင်းစေတဲ့အပိုင်းကိုရှိပါတယ်ဒါအကောင်းသွားမှာအလိုလိုဘာဝနာမြတ်ညာဖြစ်တာအဲ့ဒီပိုင်းကိုကိုယ်ရနားလည်လို့ဆိုပါ
Sayadaw says, if you try to understand these things according to the purifications, when you observe the precepts, then you just have the purification of precepts, which is called Sila Visuddhi. Having the purity in physical and verbal activities, that is called purification of precept of conduct. And the second part is the purification of consciousness or mind. To have purification of consciousness, at first it is necessary to drive away those hindrances which obstruct your development of concentration. So there are various types of hindrances or obstacles, especially the sensuous desires and hatred, sloth and torpor, doubts and ignorance. These are the hindrances which should be driven away at first to have the powerful concentration. If you are unable to drive those hindrances from your mental state, there couldn't be any purity of mind. You cannot get purification of mind. And the yogis who are trying to have that ability in them, so they are trying to drive away those defilements which are hindering them in their practice. So you can yourself try to experience whether you have already driven away those defilements or not. If not, then still you are trying to develop the second part of purification as the mind purification. Bhavana word is used as mental development. To become real bhavana or mental development, there are two portions. At first you need to have concentration, well-concentrated mind, and again, through that well-concentrated mind, if you have the observing power to see clearly each and every object, with proper knowledge. So to proceed to gain the proper knowledge and to possess the concentration, when we try to develop our mind, it is called bhavana. So therefore we are still not in the state of bhavana. We are just trying to have the group of concentration powers. So therefore Sayadaw says it is necessary to understand the meaning of bhavana and samadhi. Samadhi is just concentration group, which is called samadhi khanda. Khanda is the group. A group means the three parts of the mental powers as effort, mindfulness, and the concentrated state of mind itself.
ဒီမင်္ဂလာကျောင်းရာတွေကိုတွေးခေါ်ပြီးတော့အတင်းညှစ်ထုတ်ရတဲ့ဉာဏ်မျိုးမဟုတ်ပါဘူး။မာရိခန္ဓာအားကောင်းအောင်ပြုလို့ရှိရင်ဖြင့်အားကောင်းလာတဲ့အခါမှာစိတ်ရဲ့တိုးတက်မှုကြောင့်အလိုလိုဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့ဉာဏ်မျိုးပါ။ တနည်းအားဖြင့်သမာဓိကြောင့်ဖြစ်လာတဲ့ဉာဏ်ပါသမာဓိကြောင့်ဖြစ်လာတဲ့ဉာဏ်ဆိုတော့အနည်းဆုံးဟာပညာဖြစ်ဖို့ရအနည်းဆုံးအကြောင်းပါပညာရဲ့အနည်းဆုံးအကြောင်းပါသမာဓိပဲဒါတော့မိတ္တနာမှာခုနသဘာဝကျတဲ့အသိပညာတွေဖြစ်ရေးအတွက်အနည်းဆုံးအကြောင်းဒါပဲရှိပါမှာအနည်းဆုံးအကြောင်းပြည့်အောင်ပြုလုပ်ပါမှာ And
Sayadaw also says that without having those mental powers to create the concentration, if we just try to add to think from the beginning, And that thinking is not proper understanding. It is not wisdom. It is not knowledge. It is mere thinking. And it doesn't give you proper understanding also. Understanding comes through concentration. Real understanding comes through concentration. When you can produce understanding after having the development of well-concentrated mind, you will gain the understanding. And that type of understanding is meant as the panya, or the wisdom. Before that, the proximate cause of wisdom or understanding is concentration. That's why it is necessary to develop at first to possess the concentration.
Yeah, say kinye tamari ye dwama su say yes su simu ya dwama ati pinya phit me so do very say yes su simu tamari ha tu yi tet ma phit ba bu tu ye achanya ni chi ba tu ye achanya ni ya do wuriya ni sati ba wuriya tha ba ma sati ga le mye ba maစိတ်ရည်တည်နေတဲ့သမာဓိရပါလက်တွေ့အနေနဲ့ပြောရမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဟောမှုပိန်မှုကအစရှုခွင့်ရှုွက်အာယုဒီစိတ်ရောက်သွားအောင်လို့မပြတ်တမ်းပေါ်နေတယ်မှာချက်တဲ့တန်တာနဲ့ကြောင်းရစိုက်ပြီးရှုခွင့်အာယုဒီစိတ်ရောက်သွားအောင်နောက်ကတွန်းအားသဘောကြီးပါပါတယ်ဒီတွန်းအားသမဝါယမခေါ်ပါတယ်ဝိရိယလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီချက်ပေါ်ခိုက်မှာအဲ့ဒီရောက်အောင်လို့တွန်းအားပေးလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်တစ်ချက်ဝိရိယဖြစ်သွားတယ်ဓမ္မလုံးစဖြစ်စေတာပေါ်တဲ့အာယုစိတ်ရောက်အောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့မပြတ်တမ်းပါလို့ကြောင်းရဆိုင်ပြီးနေတယ်ဒါပွားတယ်ခေါ်ပါတယ်အားကောင်းအောင်လုပ်တယ်ခေါ်ပါတယ်ဖြစ်စေတယ်ပွားစေတယ်အားကောင်းလို့ဒါလေးဝိရိယအားကောင်းလို့ပါတဲ့လေးတွေ့လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဇွဲရှိရတယ်ညနေမှမလျှော့ရတက်တက်တန်တန်နဲ့ကြောင်းရဆိုင်ပြီးနေလို့ရှိရင်အောင်းပင်ကစားပေါ်တဲ့အာရုံမလို့စလားမှတ်တယ်တတိလေးစဖြစ်လာပြီပေါ်တဲ့အာရုံပေါ်မှာဒီတတိလေးတွေရှိနေလို့ရှိရင်ဒီတတိလေးအလားတူလေးတွေပေါ်နေတာလေဘာဝနာဆိုတာဝတ်ဥပါဒနာခေါ်တယ်ဘာဝနာဥပါဒနာဖြစ်စေအစတည်းဖြစ်စေအလားတူလေးတွေထက်ကဖြစ်နေပြီဝတ္တနာခေါ်ဝါတယ်တိုးလာခေါ်တယ်အဲ့လိုလုပ်ပြီးစွဲတော်မြဲရှုရအောင်လေးကိုမှစိတ်ကလေးစူးကလေးစိုက်ကလေးတော့ကကြဘယ်မှမပြေဘယ်မှမပြအောင်စိတ်ဆူဆီးကိုတမားလေးတွေတော့ဖြစ်နေတယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုဝိရိယရောစတိရောတမားလေးရောသုံးမျိုးလုံးပေါ်ပြီးဖြစ်စီတာလို့ဖြစ်လက်စားကိုအရှိန်ကြီးရတော့အောင်စွန့်ရည်ကြီးကလည်းတက်လာအောင်လားတိုးပွားအောင်လုပ်တယ်လို့ဆိုတာကိုလက်တွေ့နဲ့ပေါင်းစပ်ပြီးကြည့်လို့ရတယ်ဒီပိုင်းကအယူရိယစတိမာရီအရှိန်ရအားပြည့်အောင်လို့ရှင်းကောင်းလုပ်ရတဲ့အပိုင်းရှိပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါခွဲခြားပြီးတော့နားလည်ပါအဲ့ဒီပိုင်းကအတွေးညာပိုင်းမပါတွေးနေလို့ရှိရင်ကြော်သွားလွတ်သွားတယ်ဒါမှတွေးလို့မလို့
The Sayadaw says, to have proper concentration, just only having concentration is not enough. It also has another fence to help it. Without having any help from those helpful friends, the concentration cannot work anymore to fix your mind in meditational object. And those friends are the effort and the mindfulness or the observing power. These two are the helpful friends of concentration. Let us try to see these factors, how helpful they are to create the concentration through our practical experience. While you are sitting and doing the practice, you are trying to observe each and every object, beginning from the primary object as rising and falling. To get the rising as rising, you need to send your whole mental force towards the rising object. When the rising is arising, you need to drive your mind towards that object. And that pushing force and driving force is the effort. Without that effort, without that pushing forward to your mind, without that power, you cannot get the object. So at first you are trying to get the object through the pushing forward your mind and driving your mind towards the object. That means with the effort. If your effort is forceful, then you can reach to the object when the object arises as the rising. And when you reach there, at that time, you need to possess the observing power to get the rising from the beginning to the end as rising, and to observe it. If you can rush forward towards the object, possessing the power of observing power, you will get the object as rising. So the second mental force is necessary to get the rising as rising. And when your observing power is precisely falling onto the object of rising, the concentration follows, and your mind stays with the rising without having any scattered mental state. Well-controlled mental state will be there to get the rising as a whole process, and the mind stick with the object. That is the concentration. So in this way, to have the forceful concentrated power, you need these three aspects to use in your practice. So without effort, without observing power, and without concentration itself, there couldn't be precise concentration. And those three mental forces should be used in each and every noting object. Otherwise, there won't be any possibility to develop the concentration. And effort also should be used in the same directive force. Observing power also should be used to have the precise observance, and concentration also should be put in the object, falling onto the object. Each and every moment, those three powers should get together. Then the mind stay with the object. And that is why it is called development. And when you create that power, one after again, and one after another, again and again with same force, same power, same ability. That is called, as Sayadaw says, it is vardhana. So you are trying to increase them bit by bit, inch by inch. And then the concentration will be there, and you can develop the concentration. So that means at the moment the yogis are trying to develop that forceful mental group. That is why Sayadaw is trying to explain how important those mental forces to have well concentrated mind, and within those mental forces there shouldn't be any kind of thought. If there will be thought, then that thought is not the understanding, it is just thinking, and it doesn't help to develop your concentration. Real understanding only follows when you will have those three mental forces as one in each and every momentary noting, then only the understanding will follow in your practice. So Sayadaw says, to gain the real understanding of those three mental forces as the concentration group, you need to try to understand individual meaning with four aspects of each of them as the characteristic of those mental forces and the function of those mental forces and the manifestation as well as the proximate cause of them. So Sayadaw would like to explain individually what kind of characteristic possessed by the effort, what kind of function it has, and what kind of manifestation it will show, and what creates the effort, what is the proximate cause to arise the effort. Sayadaw would like to explain. And Sayadaw says, among those three mental forces, the first mental force as the effort was already explained with three factors and in previous days. So you might have understanding what kind of characteristic has in effort and what kind of function it has and what kind of manifestation it possesses. So Sayadaw says, now it is not necessary to explain about the effort.
ပေါ်လို့မပေါ်ရင်ကနင့်ညစ်သွားခြင်းလက္ခဏာရှိတယ်လို့ဆိုပါတယ်ပေါ်လေးများရေကိုချလိုက်လို့ရှိပိုးဆက်ဆက်ရှိတယ်ကြောက်ကလေးရေကိုရေထဲထားတယ်သုတ်ကလေးကိုမြုပ်သွားတယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုပဲကျောင်းရဆိုင်ပြီးတဲ့ဝိရိယရဲ့အစွမ်းကြောင့်တတိကအာယုမိပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တာမန်ဆက်ပြီးတော့မိတာမျိုးမဟုတ်ခဲနဲ့ရှုခွင့်အာယုနဲ့ပါစိတ်ကလေးကိုရှိမှတ်တဲ့စိတ်ကလေးမြင့်သွားတယ်မြုပ်သွားတယ်အဲ့လိုပဲပေါ့ဖြစ်အဲ့ဒါစတိရဲ့သဘာဝလက္ခဏာပါပဲ
While you are noting one of the objects of mere practice, suppose if you are noting the rising through the pushing force of effort, so your mind is getting to the object. And at that time, you need to develop or you need to possess the mindfulness or the observing power to get the object. When observing power will be there precisely, then you can see that your mind is deeply falling into the object or falling into the rising. The mind doesn't stay only in surface, it goes deep down to the object. As the heavy thing when you put on the water, it doesn't stay on the surface of water, it goes through the water, not as the cork. If you put cork on the water, it remains on the surface, it doesn't go deep down to the water. But when you put a pebble into the water, that pebble goes deep into the water. In the same way, when the observing power or the mindfulness will be there in your noting, at that time your noting goes deep down to the rising object. It doesn't just only stay on the surface. So that is why the characteristic of observing power is going deep into the object, not just only remaining on the surface. So apilapana lakhana sayadaw used the Pali word.
Yeah, I love how much they pay me. Saja Korea Bonia. A little Lucia, Michi Jamaica, a Jamaica. No got tap on a Jamaica, no got Pena, a Jamaica, Saja Kua for the high, a Jamaica. The Dragon Lamu Chavo, he looked me at the mother coming whatever. A Jamaica. I only got the new bit of you, younger than you. ရှုမှတ်မှုကတော့တစ်စင်းနဲ့တသားတဲ့ခါလေးတွားနေတော့အဲ့ဒီမှတ်ရလားအာယုအပြောက်မခံတဲ့အနေနဲ့မှတ်ပြီးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်သူ့ရဲ့စတိရဲ့ကိစ္စလေးတွေပေါ်လာတယ်အဲ့ဒါအသမောစာရစာအာယုအပြောက်မခံဘူးတဲ့အာယုအပြောက်မခံတဲ့ကိစ္စရှိတယ်ဖြစ်တဲ့မြတ်ပေါ်မြတ်ဟာဒီပေါ်လေးမေ့တယ်လို့မရှိဘူးအဲ့လိုပြောင်းပါအဲ့ဒါစတိရဲ့
And whenever you are trying to note the object, if the observing power or mindfulness will be there, you never miss the object. You never forget to get the object. So unforgetfulness should be there in your noting. Not only once noting, and in each and every noting. While you are sitting, whatever object arises, the unmissable force of mind is necessary to get the object. So therefore, having the unforgetfulness nature function is the function of observing power. So asamosa, you never forget it, you never miss it. All the time you get the object in the same degree. Although the object may change, but your noting doesn't change if you possess the observing power or the mindfulness. And that is the function of observing power.
အဲ့ဒါကိုပေါ်တဲ့အာယုံကိုအပြောက်အလစ်မခံရနဲ့ရှိမှရမှာပေါ်လာတဲ့အာယုံနဲ့ဒီကရှိမှတ်တဲ့စတိနဲ့ဟာအမြဲတမ်းရှိရှိနေရတယ်အမြဲတမ်းထိတ်တဲ့နေရတယ်တဲ့နေရတယ်ပေါင်းတဲ့လာတာနဲ့ဒီကရှိမှတ်တဲ့စိတ်ကိုမြင်ချင်းဆိုင်ပါပိတ်ကြတော့တဲ့ဒီရှိမှတ်စိတ်ကိုမြင်ချင်းဆိုင်တခြားပေါ်ရအာယုံနဲ့ရှိမှတ်တဲ့စိတ်ကိုမြင်ချင်းဆိုင်ရှိခွင့်ရှိခွင့်အာယုံနဲ့ဒီရှိမှတ်တဲ့စိတ်ဟာအများအားမြင်ချင်းဆိုင်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေအကုန်လုံးချုပ်ပြီးငုံပြီးတော့အရှင်းရလေးပေါ်တော့အောင်လို့ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါကိုဝိစီယဘိမုခကောတိကျပတ်ထားတာလေပေါ့ဝိစီယရှိခွင့်ရှိခွင့်ပေါင်းပင်မှုအစရှိတဲ့အာယုံစီတွေအဘိမုခဘာဝဒီဘာဝရှိရှိမှတ်ပြီးတော့ဒီဟာဟိုတဲ့မြင်ချင်းဆိုင်ကြည့်ရ
And in the noting each and every object, beginning from the primary object as rising and falling, the object and the noting mind should have direct connection. If you have direct connection with the rising object, then you will get the rising object clearly. So the observing power should be there, face to face with the object. And the object should be hand in hand. If you could have that mental power, that mental strength, you never miss the rising object. You never miss the falling object. You never miss the uplifting, moving and placing. Because you are seeing the object directly. The connection is close to you. And you are facing the object directly. So in that way, when you have that force of mind, then there will be the manifestation of mindfulness, observing power, as having face-to-face connection with the object or direct connection with the object. So therefore Sayadaw says, Visaya abhimukhi bhava pachupatthana. The observing power has got the manifestation to face the object directly, connect with the object directly, and to get the object face to face.
အဲ့ဒီလိုအာယုံနဲ့မဆိတ်နဲ့ထိတ်တဲ့ဖြစ်လာအောင်ပေါ့လေရှင်းရလေးထင်ရှားသွားပြီတတိယထင်ရှားသွားပြီဆိုရင်အာရကပိဋိပဋ္ဌာနာဆိုတာပေါ့နောက်ပြစ္ဆုတ်ကတည်းကလည်းပြပါတယ်အာရကပိဋိပဋ္ဌာနာဆိုတာနောက်ချက်និဝရဏပြည့်စုံတာလို့ပါစိတ်ကိုအကာအကွယ်ပေးထားတာလို့ဆောက်ရှောက်ထားတယ်သူတို့မဝင်ရအောင်ပေါ့လူရင်မမို့ဘူးအမိဆန္ဒလည်းမဝင်ရအောင်ညင်မို့ဘူးယမလនិဝရဏလည်းမဝင်ရအောင်ပြီးတော့ရောရဲ့ပြင်းမှုပြင်းမိတဲ့និဝရဏလည်းမဝင်ရအောင်ပြန့်မြဲမှုပူပါမှုလည်းမဝင်ရအောင်အတွေ့အကြုံချော်ပြီးတော့ယုံမှတန်တရားပေါ့ဒီကိစ္စនិဝရဏလည်းမဝင်ရအောင်ဒီအကာအကွယ်ပေးတာရှုရအောင်မှာစိတ်ကလေးမြင့်ဝင်သွားတာသင်ရလောက်အောင်ပြီးတော့အာယုံနဲ့မျက်ခြေမပြတ်ထိတ်တဲ့မှတ်နိုင်ပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်စဉ်းစားကြည့်ပေါ့အဲ့ဒီစိတ်ကလေးမှာ Amicana aside the Niborana, the new when Oba Mimi, Diami, who are judging the judges with Amicana near Moon at Yavana, Niborana side, when I see that. Harmon, Major, it's a year ago we beat her. Every the tea, say cookie dama, Niborana Diarima, Gawa be chain, the K. Caesar at the level, all around, or the food another. The deal of Donga, Udahu, a sea dam he says, either when he died, no said he the dinner does it at all. That is low choney, yes, bravo, not about it. I'm got where is she, low choney, there are 17 years, you can about it.
If you have these aspects fully followed in your practice, using the mental force as the observing power, then try to see yourself whether there could arise any defilements or not. Your mind is falling into the object deep in it, and you are trying to get the object without missing them, and you are trying to get the object face to face. You are approaching directly with the object. Try to see, could there arise any defilement as the hindrance of your practice? If you don't have that power, then very easy to arise. You want to see something, you want to hear something, you want to smell something, you want to taste something, you want to touch something, and you want to think something. All sorts of desires, sensuous pleasures spring up in your mind immediately. But when you are really using the observing power or the mindfulness in your practice, no defilement could arise as the sensuous desire, as the ill will, or sloth and torpor also couldn't arise. There won't be any weakness of mind, there won't be any laziness, there won't be any drowsiness, there won't be any sleepiness. So you are free from all sorts of defilements. Not only that, at the time your mind is stand still, firm and strong enough to stay in that particular object without wandering it. And you don't have any kind of remorse at that time, which is also another cause to drive away your mind. And during that moment you are seeing clearly the object as rising or falling or lifting or placing or moving. So and there won't be any kind of doubt in your mind. So in this way all those hindrances are away from your mind. So your mind is well protected by the observing power. Therefore, the another manifestation of observing power is to protect you from defilements or hindrances.
The Charaba Ayugido Piampi, Matuani Lakanasi, Mapiampi, so the Masaitan is a lady, soon a cycle at Kajan. And that's why you look at the Pola. Soon a cycle at Kajan is a rich. The tea Kajan is a low. The tea is she and Dory the Peter City, the Mariga ရှုမိရအာယုန်တစ်ခုတည်းမှာဒါလည်းတော့စူးစီးပြလိုက်သဟဇာတနာသံပိတနာရဆောဆိုတာသဟဇာတနာအတူတကောဖြစ်တဲ့စိတ်တရားတော်ကိုသံပိတနာရဆောရှုမိရပေါင်းအာယုန်ပိမှုအာယုန်တစ်ချိန်ရအပေါ်မှာပေါ့စူးစီးပေးခြင်းကိစ္စရှိတယ်စူးစီးတယ်ကြည့်လိုက်တော့စိတ်ကလေးတဏှာထဲမှာလည်းဒါစီယုံပေးလိုက်တာပဲအဲလိုစီယုံပေးမိပြီဆိုရင်အာယုန်ကူရမှာစိုက်ကြပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်စုရက်ဆိုတာပေါ့စိတ်ကလေးဟာကိုထားရအာယုန်ထဲမှာစုရက်တဲ့တော့ငြိမ်းပြီးကြတော့အဲ့ဒီအချင်းရာလေးလည်းပေါ်လာတာပဲအဲ့ဒါဘုဝသမပိဋ္ဌုပဋ္ဌာနောဆိုတာပဲငြိမ်းပြီးကြသွားတယ်အချင်းရာလေးပေါ်လာတယ်အဲ့ဒီသမာဓိရဲ့လက္ခဏာသမာဓိရဲ့ရသနဲ့သမာဓိရဲ့ပိဋ္ဌုပဋ္ဌာန်ကိုဒါလေးသင်ချတာအဲ့ဒီကမျိုးမှာသမာဓိအားဖြစ်သွားတယ်
While you are noting in that way, using the forceful mental powers to get each and every object clearly, your mind doesn't wander anymore. Your mind sticks with the object. There won't be any kind of flickering and fluttering nature of your mind. So it stays on the object. Without having any kind of looseness in it. So when your mind stay in that way in one particular object, sticking with it, that is the characteristic of concentration. When concentration will be there, your mind sticks with the object. It stays without having any movement, any fluttering nature on it. So there are some kind of getting together force. When concentration will be there, all the associated mental factors also act in the same way. The concentration doesn't give any other associating object to run away from the object. So the concentration is there to get together all the associating of the mental factors together. Therefore, the function of concentration is having the well-organized force to place all the mental factors in one aspect. That is why Sayadaw says it is the function of concentration as sampindana, getting together. We're organizing to put all things together. And when that type of organization will be there, what will happen to your mind? Oh, your mind becomes calm and quiet. And that calm and quietness is the manifestation of concentration. When you have concentration, so your mind stay in peaceful state. So in that way, through possessing these three mental forces, so your mind stay with the object, and you have to try to develop those mental forces again and again, each and every moment, That is why it is called concentration. And to have that type of concentration, there isn't any way to put any additional thing. So that is why Sayadaw is forcefully trying to explain that during the process of development of concentration, the yogi shouldn't add any kind of additional thoughts.
အချုပ်ကတော့ပေါ်တဲ့အာယုံကိုတော့တန်းဖတ်နိုင်လို့ရရှုခွင့်စီရောက်အောင်လို့တွန်းပို့ပြီးတဲ့ဝိရိယကကိလေသာလက်မခံဒီကုရဏတရားတွေသူကလက်မခံဘူးဆွေးဆွေးမြဲရှုမိတဲ့စတိကတော့စိတ်စဉ်ကိလေသာကိုရအောင်သူအကာအကွယ်ပေးတယ်ဆွေးမြဲဆိုရှုမိရအောင်မှာစူးစိုက်ပြီးတော့မပြတ်မလွယ်မဲနဲ့ပေါ့လေအဲဒီတော့ပြတ်လွယ်မသွားတဲ့သမာဓိကတော့ရှုမှတ်တဲ့စိတ်အာယုတစ်ခုထဲမှာပဲသူကစီးရုံပြီးတဲ့စီးပြီးတယ်ဝိရိယကကိလေသာကိုလက်မခံဘူးတတိယကိလေသာကာကွယ်ပေးတယ်သမာဓိကလုံခြုံမှုရှိအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ညီတဲ့မှုရှိအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ဆူဆီးပေးတယ်အဲဒီလိုဝိရိယစတိသမာဓိစိတ်ဆွမ်းအားတွေအားပြည့်လာတဲ့အခါကျမှပညာဖြစ်တာဆိုတာကိုကောင်းလာတယ်နော်အဲ့ဒီပညာတွေဖြစ်ရေးအတွက်ဝိရိယစတိသမာဓိခေါ်တဲ့သမာဓိခန္ဓာကိုပညာရဲ့အနည်းဆုံးအကြောင်းစိတ်ဆွမ်းရင်အကောင်းလို့အကောင်းလာမှာပညာဟာလည်းလို့ဖြစ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုအချိန်မကြာခင်ရှိဘူးဆိုတာဘယ်တော့ပဲညှစ်ထုတ်ပြီးတော့တွေးခေါ်ဘယ်တော့မှဒီအမှန်တရားကိုသိတော့ပြင်မှန်းကျိုးတဲ့နတ်ပါပဲအချိန်နဲ့ကုန်တော့မှပေါမှဖြစ်မှာမဟုတ်
Sayadaw says, through the development of these three mental factors or mental forces as the concentration group, at that time you can see the force of those mental forces. When there will be directing or pushing forward power as the effort, that effort never accepts the defilement. So it prevents at first not to enter the defilement in your mind. So not accepting power is processed by the effort. And there is the observing power which protects your mind not to arise any kind of defilement. So one prevents the defilement, another protects the mind not to arise any defilement, and when there won't be no defilement, what happened? Well, security will be there, and the force of security could be shown by the concentration. So your mind, when it is your mind well concentrated, so you get the security. So prevention, protection, and security, these are the forces of concentration groups. So through those concentration powers, only the development of mind will be there. If not, the development of mind couldn't be arise. If there won't be the well-developed mental state, never arises the knowing or the understanding or the wisdom. Before that, if you try forcefully create something, adding the thoughts, that would be just to give you a lot of trouble, not to gain anything from it. You cannot gain anything as real understanding to have wisdom. So Sayadaw says, thus you will get the fatigueness in your practice.
ကျင်းတော့ဘာလို့ဒီလိုတိုင်းတော့တော့လိုက်တာဆိုတော့
As Sayadaw says, the time is over today. See, he will try to explain furthermore in coming days.